Let's bring in Mark Polymeropoulos, MS Now national security and intelligence analyst and former CIA senior intelligence officer. Welcome back, Mark. Here we go. Much has been reported about a U.S. charm offensive at this Munich conference. Politico reports that the Secretary of State got a standing ovation after saying the U.S. and Europe belong together. But some European officials say they're hearing a tougher message, that being join us or we'll go it alone. What do you make of the tone at the conference?
So clearly there was a different tone that Secretary of State, Rubio set, very much opposed to what happened a year ago when Vice President Vance went and basically insulted everyone in Europe. And so that was really a negative reaction. Here, there was a quote, a sigh of relief. But I think that Europeans are kind of waking up right now. And it's almost a sense, I hate to even make this comparison, it's like an abusive relationship. I mean, the United States has treated Europe very poorly. They were nice for a moment, but I think Europeans are kind of stepping back and actually thinking to what Rubio actually said. And there's a lot of disagreement. There's a big delta between the two sides. And I think Kallas, the EU, foreign policy chief, said it best when the U.S. is lecturing Europe on freedom of speech. Estonia, her native country, is number 2 on kind of the freedom index of freedom of speech. The U.S. is number 56 or 58 or something like that. And so, there still remains this divide, and Europe and Europeans, I think, really have to kind of put this kind of charm offensive to the side. It was nice. It was less offensive. But Europe has to go it alone on a lot of issues now. And look, there's 3 more years of the Trump presidency. And all of this charm offensive, by the way, Alex, can be blown up in one tweet, one Truth Social post from President Trump if he's going to insult Europe again about NATO commitment, about Greenland. And so Munich was nice, but I don't think it's a real reflection on really the depth that the U.S.-European relationship has gone. Yeah.
Hey, I think it's only 2 years and 11 months, my friend, that we have to go. I'm just saying. Meantime, Tuesday, the U.S. and Iran will be holding another round of nuclear talks in Geneva after President Trump said Friday that a change in power in Iran would be the best thing that could happen. The U.S. also sent a second aircraft carrier to the region. So what are your expectations for this meeting?
So it's really interesting. And don't forget, Prime Minister Netanyahu came to the White House last week to try to kind of bolster this notion that the U.S. has to be tougher with Iran, because there were reports that were coming out that the U.S. and the Iranians could actually come to some kind of agreement on the nuclear file. Now, there's 3 bins here. There's the nuclear issue. There's the issue of ballistic missiles, the inventory that Iran has that definitely threatens the Israelis. And then there's the issue of the Iranian support to the proxies, which the U.S. cares about a lot as well. So it looks like, in terms of sequencing, there could be an agreement on kind of the enrichment, the nuclear part of it. But, that might not be enough. And President Trump is going to be under a lot of criticism if he goes for this, because it does look like the old JCPOA. That's the Obama era deal. Throw all that on top of this is their notion that President Trump promised the Iranian people that help was on its way. And so, in fact, an agreement with Iran would mean the regime stays in power. There's a lot at stake here. There's a tremendous amount of firepower that's now in the region ready to go. And I think Tuesday is going to be quite significant. Let's see if the Iranians can do enough to keep the negotiations going, or else we're faced with, over the next several weeks, a very potential large war between the U.S. and Iran.
Oof. Okay. Let's switch gears here, because there was an interesting story in the Washington Post about a researcher skeptical of so-called Havana syndrome. You said you suffered debilitating symptoms from it after a trip to Moscow in 2017. So that scientist developed his own high-power pulsed energy device and then tested it on himself, intending to debunk it. And, well, it did not go so well for him. What is your reaction to him now believing in this mysterious illness?
So look, Alex, this is something that happened to me in Moscow in December of 2017. It caused my career to end, frankly. I'm unfortunate I'm here with you as a national security contributor, but I suffered really terrible, both physical and really mental health injuries for years on this. I'm much better now, but this is something that's affected a great many intelligence officers and diplomats and military officials. In my case and many others, these were operations officers who were working against Russia, but the CIA and the U.S. intelligence community never really thought that there was anything there. And there's a lot that's happening now that really debunks that. I think it's something that's going to continue to come out. This actually shows that the device can exist. This individual built it, tested it on himself, and then ended up having the same symptoms that a lot of us have. And so I think you're going to see a lot more press revelations. And ultimately, this is something that is akin, in my mind, to things like Agent Orange, burn pits, of course, from the war on terrorism. Gulf War syndrome, even the effects that first responders had after 9/11. There's health effects that the U.S. government first denied and ends up being real. And so there's a lot more to this. And there has to be a reckoning. The intelligence community did not really serve any of us or the American people well by denying that this existed. It does. And I think you're going to see a lot more come out.
Yeah. I'm sorry you've had to go through all that, but I'm so grateful you're here with us, Mark. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks,
Appreciate that.